Welcome to mile marker 8 in the Miles in My Shoes video series. In today's episode, we're going to talk about fear and the power of pushing through it and addressing that fear. Anyone that knows me knows that Gary Vaynerchuk is one of my favorite leaders, and today's episode was inspired by content that he puts out where he talks about taking action and not letting your insecurities rule you. Welcome back to the Miles in My Shoes video series. I'm your host, Richardson, and I hope you guys enjoyed the Thanksgiving break. Before we get into today's topic about fear and action, I'd like to thank those of you that have shared the videos and that have supported this process. I am truly grateful for it. I do appreciate the interaction. I appreciate the subscribers. If I'm saying anything that resonates with you, and if you'd like to be regularly updated about this content, feel free to hit the subscribe button below. Before we dive deeper into the topic of fear and action, I want to tell you the reason I chose to talk about this particular topic today. As we near the end of the year, I started to reflect and think about the things that I acted upon this year that was a success, the things that I can improve upon, and what my goals would like to be for 2019. And I know, guys, we're going to see on Twitter, we're going to see people posting about New Year's resolutions and how you're ultimately going to fail and how there's no point. And, oh my gosh, you should live your best life all year round and New Year's resolution shouldn't matter. And to me, that's noise. I mean, to each his own. Believe what you want to believe. But whether or not you do your New Year's resolutions on January 1st, or whether or not you do it at the middle of the year, growth should be a continuous mindset. And there is nothing wrong with setting lofty goals for yourself and for others. And if you fall short of those goals, you pick it back up and you start again. When it comes to the topic of our fears, one of my favorite personalities to follow online is Gary Vaynerchuk. And he has a very aggressive, no-holds-barred approach to fear. He thinks that it's bullshit. He thinks that you shouldn't waste time dwelling on your failures. You should instead take that time and focus on your success and act. Do something about it. Accept the reality of your situation and make a move. I consider myself a brave person, but no matter how brave you are or where you're at in life, there's always something that we fear or something that gives us dread or hesitation. And I try to dial into any of the fears that I have, and I haven't conquered them all. I haven't mastered them all, but I've had some wins. 2019 was a big year for me because one fear in particular that I really conquered this year was my fear of water, or more specifically, my fear of swimming and my fear of putting myself in water in public places and looking like a complete idiot. You see, when you're 6'3" and you're tall and you're athletic, you can get away with a lot of scenarios where you could pretend that you're comfortable in the water. Oh, sure, I've been to pool parties and I've been to the gym and I've done workouts in the water. But think about it. Most pools are about 5 feet. So I'm always able to stand comfortably. Water doesn't cripple or paralyze me until it gets to a point to where it's about up near my eyes. So whenever I would find myself in a situation where I was in water that was 6 feet or over, I'd get this feeling of panic and uncertainty because I don't know how to tread water. I can get in a pool of 5 feet of water and I can swim to the other side. But when it comes to treading water and actually swimming in deep water, that's when I'm out of my element. And so one story that really hit home and what really motivated me to finally conquer this fear was that we had taken our dog Ripley, who was a 90-pound, very large and elegant German Shepherd, to an outdoor dog park here. Merrimore Park is this beautiful outdoor dog leash where dogs have fields and acres to run and roam and play and frolic. And in the center of the park is this body of water where dogs can jump in and swim and get wet and just have fun. And so we had taken Ripley out and we were throwing the ball into the water, and he had jumped out and sailed, and he got the ball and he landed awkwardly towards the middle of that body of water. And we could tell that something was wrong, and come to find out he had ruptured his paw. And so in that moment of panic, my 2 kids are there, my wife is there, and we could tell that he was barely struggling to keep his head above water. And it hit me. As Ripley struggled to get back to the shore, this dear member of our family, I'm supposed to be the protector. I'm 6'3", and I'm prepared for any situation, right? But not that one. And I remember looking at my wife and looking at my son and looking at my daughter, and it dawned on me that if someone was going to have to go get our 90-pound German Shepherd, my wife, who was of smaller stature, was going to have to take off her coat and jump in the water and go save our dog, lest I jump in and drown us both. And guys, I have to tell you, it was gut-wrenching for me. And my wife and I laughed about it. We joked about it. But it was that day that I knew that, okay, I've got to do something about this. I can't continue to allow myself or my fear to put me in a position of weakness where if a situation happened where, God forbid, one of my children fell into a pool or my 90-pound German Shepherd was in a body of water and he was struggling, I needed to be able to do something about it. So what I did was I enrolled in this quest to learn to swim. And I was very picky about the process, right? Because there's a lot of gyms in the area, but I didn't want to be this athletic person in these swimming pool areas where there's a lot of people watching, flailing around, looking panicked in 6 feet of water like I was going to drown. So it was a very tough process for me, and my pride took a hit. And so I finally found a swim school that not only specialized in teaching children, but it specialized in teaching adults as well. And so I enrolled in an adult class, and this was a busy time in my life. I had a lot of deadlines at work, a lot of different outside pressures, but for me, it was important to really master this fear and get it to release its grip on me. So I took action. And by take action, I meant that I signed up for adult lessons 2 nights a week, every week from 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. And it was tough. I mean, there were days that I would come home from work and I didn't want to do it. But anytime I put my mind to something, whether it's conquering fear of presenting or whether it's conquering fear of swimming or anything, there's only one speed that I know. It's taking action and making a move. So I have to tell you guys, the toughest part about taking this class was that I was fine when I was in the shallow end of the water, where it was 5 feet, but the other half of the pool was, I think, 12 feet at its deepest. And so I would get to this moment where I'm swimming across the pool, and when I got to the 7-foot area, that's where I started to panic. But as I stuck with it and as I remained consistent and I went to class, I never gave up. I would even begin each class by jumping in the deep end to force myself to get rid of this mystique. You can conquer this. And as I started to feel more and more comfortable, and as I started to learn to tread water for 30 seconds at a time, 1 minute at a time, I started to reflect and think, when I would get in the deep end of the water, if I was too still, I would sink, right? I'm not very buoyant, right? So me going to the bottom, I go to the bottom a lot easier than my wife does. But then what I learned was when I started fighting it and I started treading too hard, I would exert too much energy. And then I would have the opposite effect, and then I'd end up sinking anyway. What's important to note is that for myself, mentally and physically, I had to discover, how do I get to a state where I'm relaxed in this water and I'm not moving too much, but I'm also moving just enough? I ended up conquering that fear, and I'm a much better swimmer now. But I thought about that example and how it applies to life. It is important to take action. If you have a fear of public speaking, if you have a fear of taking that new role, that new promotion, we can almost guarantee that inaction or doing nothing about it won't yield the proper results. But we can also guarantee that if you act too fast, right? If you find yourself in a new job, in a new situation, and you're too challenged, right? Maybe you're in over your head. That can also have adverse effects. Many of us can easily identify something that we are afraid of, something that gives us fear, something that gives us hesitation or pause. But what I like to focus on, what's more important, what's more devastating than that thing that we're afraid of, is the fear to act, right? That feeling that tells you, okay, well, I know that I need to address this, but I'll do it the next day, or I'll do it the next year, or I'll do it next New Year's resolution. And so I'm always a big believer in taking action, whether it's through self-improvement, whether it's through learning a different language. There are those of you out there that have been thinking about maybe taking a new job, or maybe starting a business, or maybe, stepping into something new, whether it's learning to play the guitar, learning to play the piano, doing something to challenge yourself to be a better version of yourself. It starts with action. And that has always been the toughest part for me when it comes to prioritizing things in my life. As for myself personally, I truly believe in leaning into my fear. I've already taken the challenge and taken on some things next year that are going to force me way outside of my comfort zone, whether it's presenting at Cisco Live or presenting at a work conference, whether it's continuing to master my swimming technique, or whether it's picking up a new skill. Leaning into fear is something that you cannot say enough. So again, I know that we're coming to the part of the year where everyone's going to have videos where they talk about the New Year's resolutions. They're going to talk about their diets or their workout plans. Perhaps it may seem tiresome to some of us where, okay, this person again this year you're going to talk about losing weight, or again this year you're going to talk about being your best self. But that's what life is all about. Our fears never really go away. And I know I said the term master your fear, but that's an ongoing process. I get into a pool now when I get into the 10-foot end. I feel more comfortable and I know what to do, but I still have a bit of fear to deal with in that, okay, this doesn't feel natural to me. So when you see people talking about their goals and their resolutions, I challenge you to encourage them. I challenge you to internalize that and think about things that you could be doing. Because it's really easy to sit back in the background and sit back on your own pedestal and criticize other folks for having goals and for failing at those goals. It's easier to do that than identifying what you fear. What things in your life do you need to take action on, and how are you going to lean into it? Whether it's starting a podcast, starting a video series, or taking a new job, I only know one way to do things, and that's full speed ahead and jumping in with both feet. So when I decided to conquer my fear of swimming, my fear of deep water, I signed up for classes. I prepaid for 6 months of lessons because I was committed to it. I also told people about it. I'm not exactly proud of the fact that I waited to this point in my life to learn to swim, but by speaking it into existence and putting that energy out in the universe and vocalizing it to others, it's a way of keeping myself accountable. So as we wind the year down and we get to that part of the year where you see all these annoying posts about what people are going to do next year and their different resolutions and the things that they're going to change, I challenge you to pollinate and not contaminate, and find at least 3 people and comment on their status and encourage them. I appreciate you guys for watching. Thanks so much for the interaction. I'm eternally grateful, and I will see you at the next mile.